When Yasuko Thanh was 15 years ago, she ran away, trading life at home for a life on the streets of Victoria and Vancouver. Fast forward a few years, and that teenage runaway transformed into an award-winning author who is now out with her memoir. It's called Mistakes to Run With. Yasuko Thanh joins us in studio this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is a very brave story to tell, and the title of the book would suggest that instead of regretting our mistakes, that we roll with them. What does your title mean to you?
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. Well, part of it is a little bit the running with scissors thing, so mistakes to run with, but also just that idea of, you know, that's good, run with it, but these are mistakes to run with. I think we learn more from our mistakes than our successes often.
And we can't go back and change them.
No, you can't.
No, not at all. Your story takes us through how you started as an honor roll student. You were on the math team, you won French public speaking competitions, and then at 15, you leave home. Why?
That's a question that probably takes the whole book to answer, but the short answer, the Reader's Digest version, is I had this feeling that if I stayed, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I had this feeling if I stayed, I wasn't going to live to experience the life that was supposed to be mine. I had this sense that out there somewhere, somebody was living what I was supposed to be living, and I was trapped. And it's not that the things I had to deal with were any different, really, than the majority of other teenagers who are angsty, but the way in which I chose to deal with those feelings, I guess, is what was different about it.
At 16, you meet a man called Avery, who becomes your pimp. He was 27. He seemed to give you a sense of safety, which might not make sense for people who are watching, but that relationship really becomes an important part of the memoir. It gave you a sense of home.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
I think that whenever people are looking at what we call abusive relationships, actually, I shouldn't put abusive in quotes, relationships that are abusive, it's so easy to say, well, you know, she's getting hit, why doesn't she leave, and what's wrong with her? But the fact is that it's much more complicated than that. There's a lot of good that's wrapped up with the bad, and we can often misplace our trust in people, which doesn't diminish the love that we ourselves are capable of feeling and bestowing on them. It's just probably the wrong target of our affection.
You say in the book that you don't feel like a victim, you didn't feel like a victim, and that working in the sex trade made you feel powerful because you were setting your own rules, you were street smart, you were tough. This was when you were a teenager, and now as you look back at yourself as a teenager, has that perspective changed at all?
It's changed a lot. My youngest daughter is 15 now, and so I look at her and think of her being out on the street at that age, and it boggles my mind. I think that I needed to tell myself I wasn't a victim at that point, because feeling strong was so important to my very survival, the survival of my identity. Looking back now, I can see that there were ways in which I was taken advantage of, but that's certainly nothing I could or would want to admit at the time.
You mentioned your children. Do they know your story? Have they read the book?
The youngest hasn't. I'm not sure about the older one, but I've always been very open with both of them in terms of talking about my past. If they had questions, I would answer them. So I would give them info on a kind of need-to-know basis. And the book has generated some good discussion between me and my oldest, which is wonderful. They're both really, really cool kids.
That's wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're a fascinating speaker, and if the book for anyone is like talking to you, they'll be hanging on to every single word.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. The book is called Mistakes to Run With.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.